In Talent, Oregon, just steps from Broadway Alley, the lights come up. Rehearsal becomes performance. Process becomes story. And artists meet audience in the same room. This is where Broadway meets talent.
And welcome to Where Broadway Meets Talent, where we explore the artists, process, and creative work behind the productions here at Camelot Theatre in Talent, Oregon. I'm Brian O'Connor, and today we're getting something new for the podcast as we move into a video format and bring these conversations directly into the rehearsal process. On this episode, we'll be discussing Camelot's current production, You Can't Take It With You, and full transparency, I'm wearing two hats for this production. Alongside hosting these conversations, I'm also appearing in You Can't Take It With You as Paul Sycamore. So I may occasionally speak both as host of the podcast and a participant in the production itself. Today, I'm joined by the director of You Can't Take It With You, Tommy Statler, to talk about about shaping the world of the show and bringing it to life on the Camelot stage. Tommy, welcome.
Thank you. I feel great to be here.
Well, let's start at the beginning here. What drew you to You Can't Take It With You as a directing project?
For You Can't Take It With You, there's so many things that are happening very quickly, a lot of bodies coming in and out. We have 19 actors in the show, about 22 characters, 23, bad director. But we've got a lot of flying pieces. But what was exciting about this one is the play is a realism play, and it's all set in the one space that is kind of a communal living room that is a live-all. And I've had a lot of experience doing plays where we're very character-centered and like the locations are moving, doing a lot more surrealism, dream sequence, dance movement pieces, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's nice to work on a piece where the room has gravity and everybody has a relationship to the room. They're almost drawn in and pulled in, and then they're kind of shot out again, and then they're just in orbit around this one space. And that's what the play is when you read it. It's okay, people are just flying. And so how do we give this room the good sense of gravity that allows us to feel cozy, excited, and then sit in for a good story?
Right. Was there something about the script or its themes that spoke to you right away?
The script specifically, I was excited and spoke to about. Everybody's very much an individual character in this play. They're very singularly focused on their fireworks, their dance lessons, their cornflakes, their darts, whatever it is. And so that can also be a challenge as a play from an audience perspective. When you have a lot of characters, then what centers us and what brings everything through. And kind of going back to like the room, that's what the room is. It allows every character to just individually go through, advocate for what they're going for. And I think the play has good questions for young people about questioning the path you're on, health that is in a healthy manner. And when do you start to go, is this the right turn I want to make? Is this the left turn I want to make? Is this that? Is this that? And for older audience, it allows us to look back and just kind of on those moments we had in our lives where we had particular turns or choices that we got to make. And yeah, I think the play has a very hopeful and positive approach to those once we get into the end of it there.
I want to talk about the rehearsal process a little bit as you come into the rehearsal room. And now I will switch into an actor hat because it's been a long time since I've been on stage. And this was a totally different rehearsal process for me, the way you ran the room and our stage manager, and even some of the younger artists we have in the show from who have recently graduated or are still attending SOU. This was new to them too. And we all found we loved this rehearsal process. Normally you come in, you might read through the script a couple of nights, and then you're on your feet with the script in your hand, get your blocking. This was so different and so refreshing. Can you talk about that a little bit and where that came from? I mean, it was really really effective, I think, and it was helpful to the actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my process, I started as an actor in undergrad. And so when I direct, I got to look from the audience's lens. I've got to look from the playwright's lens, and I will check in like, okay, I see which way Brian's head is looking. I'll try to like just beam into your head real quick and try to see what you're seeing. And so my process for getting plays on their feet is let's do a lot of script work to the point where we really are anxious to kick the chairs and throw them against the wall. We're kind of so ready. And this play needs it because there's a lot. And so we did a good 5 days of script work. And then I challenged the cast, and a lot of people met the challenge of, okay, when we stage a unit or units within the play, come in and know the lines, know the circumstances, and we're going to stage it script out of hand, not off book, which you know, 'cause you can speak to. Nobody had to be off book. And then when we're in the room, we're out of the book because I can't help you all build the sight lines and the targets and the things you need to see until your eyes are out of the book. Like, I understand that there's a process that people do where there's scripts, but then that kind of gets the actor into your head and it gets you into the page, and I need you on the stage. And I need
Right.
you looking and going, oh, at this moment I'm looking at Grandpa, and actually I think I should be looking at Penny. Or like I get to look up and go, oh, okay, I see which way they're focusing. And if an actor needs the book, an actor needs the book. But there's only so much I can help in that process while you're learning the lines, because the lines are just a consequence of your circumstances. And when people speak, you know, and audiences perceive, they're perceiving more of your body language and your tone than they are what you're actually saying. So the process of getting the script out of your hand allows the actor to realize, like, oh, the words on the page are only 10% of what the audience is hearing anyway. What if I turn
Right.
this way and look at this person? That says a lot. If I turn this, and so yeah, and once we get that rolling, it's a little slow going in the beginning. It's slower at the start, but once everybody gets used to the process, by the time we get to Act 3, and you all actually staged the back end of Act 3 without me because I was sick and like did a great job. Like it just becomes a muscle memory at that point. Maybe you could speak to it, but that's what it's designed to kind of do.
Yeah, and I think when you were explaining the process our first night, how we were going to approach it, I think those of us who had not worked with you before as a director were kind of went a little panic mode, like we can't have our scripts, we can't do this. Once we got out there, though, I realized how beneficial it was. It stopped being scary, and it was actually very fun. And, you know, you could still call for line if you needed to, but it just allowed us as actors to be able to explore the set, to be able to explore the other characters and the space. And I think we all were like, why haven't we done this before? Because this was so much better than what we've done in the past. So as an actor, I very much appreciated that.
No, and I like the process too, because what it allows is it allows the actors to then let me know when a moment isn't truthful for them, even if it's not realism, even if we're doing a dream play or surrealism or whatever we're doing. It allows you then to go, oh, wait, Tommy, no, this isn't. Whereas if your head's in the script, then you're kind of just be going along, and you might not realize that the moment isn't reading truthful for another 2 weeks down the road. Whereas if you realize it that's 2 weeks earlier, then we can grow on it or change it or pivot and whatever we've got to do. And yeah, kind of the process of taking the stigma out of calling for line or not knowing the line. The line is a consequence, and just allowing. The script is important. That's why we do those 5 days of script work. So that everybody knows, okay, we are at this time, we're in this year, this is the relationship, this is all the like 23 different things you need to know in a given 3 seconds. And
Yeah.
then you allow them to just kind of happen from there.
Well, and I think it also, for the actors, at least for me, it really helped hammer home the timeline of the play and where we were. And I found myself as we went into tech weekend and even the last of the normal rehearsals, not wondering where my entrances were because those were already instilled in me. And
It's
I
muscle
wasn't,
memory, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. We're talking with Tommy Statler, director of You Can't Take It With You, currently at Camelot Theatre through March 15th. So this play has endured for generations, literally. From your perspective, what is the core heartbeat of the story that keeps it relevant?
I think anytime you've got family stories, particularly in America, I think those are always going to be timeless because everybody's got a family and everybody kind of understands. And then whatever lens you take it from, whether it's comedic or drama, it can kind of go from there. But you can't take it with you specifically. It's such a wild, like, idea of a household kind of being this, like, almost poetic chaos. And it reminds me a lot of my mother's family and like that side of my family specifically. And so I think that's what these familial stories do, and why they're so timeless is because everybody's got a family, and it allows us to go, okay, the circumstances in 36, they're coming back from the depression, they're this, they're that, they're this, they're that. But it allows us to connect very quickly with them. And then we can the hardest part as an audience sometimes is letting our own stuff go and just sitting and watching. We might bring in this thing, or we might have had this argument, or you've got this news thing on your mind. Everybody's got their phone in their pocket at an intermission. Allowing all that stuff to kind of drop off can be difficult, but you can't take it with you because it's got this kooky family. It allows it, and so many people do this play growing up, I guess, because I wasn't one who did it in high school, but anybody I
Right.
talked to, they're like, oh, I did this in high school or college or this or that. So it's been kind of fun. I feel like I'm joining like a nice little fraternity / sorority with this one. And yeah, the play specifically just has a lot of love, but it allows you to tell the story from a truthful standpoint, and it's comedy, but it's not begging for a laugh. I don't ever feel like the playwrights in this one are begging for a laugh or demanding it. I feel like they're writing, and then kooky family. If we laugh, we laugh. Yeah.
Right. And that's a great point, because there's such a careful balance between humor and sincerity here. So as a director, how do you protect emotional truth while allowing the comedy to just naturally breathe?
My approach to comedy or drama is that tension is what we go for. We Either way, if I'm directing comedy or drama, I'm still striving to get the actors to find the tension, and then how we break out of that tension then lets the audience know whether they should be laughing or crying. Because once we get into act 3, things are a little bit more serious. So the way we're handling that tension is very different than the tension we're handling in acts 1 and 2. And so allowing yourself to truthfully go at the tension and then just break out of it a little way that lets the audience inherently know, oh, I can laugh at this moment. But also, since we're playing it truthful, if they don't laugh, they're still going to be invested with the story. If it's not their like specific giggle, that's great. And then we can keep it moving.
Right. So for audiences who are unfamiliar with the show, how would you describe this world that they're going to be stepping into when they attend?
The world is very warm because we're in the Sycamore household, and Grandpa Vanderhoff has set up a room where everybody lives under his roof, and everybody gets to explore their own thing to the furthest avenues that they can go down. And yeah, it's a world where the tension then becomes where we have this young couple, and they're trying to, and the young lady lives in this household that is very free-flowing and free-forming, and the young gentleman is from a much more structured Wall Street family, and that becomes our major romantic tension. And they just kind of start to explore, how do we go through this? And that goes back to the timelessness of this play is, if you've been in a relationship, again, going back to particularly in this country where you can kind of marry outside of your class or your social or your political sphere or your this or your religion. So that tension is always one that we can kind of go back to here in America. So audiences can expect the familiarity with those kind of plot lines. And I think the fresh thing that they can do is this cast is really great with it. The cast, like, I don't ever have to ask you all to push for energy or for truth or to like play off each other. Like the directing process for me has been feeling like I've been asking you to cross a couple T's and dot a couple I's. Like I'm really just
Right.
proofreading a lot more than I'm directing at times. And so that's what audiences can start to expect out of this one.
You mentioned the cast, and this play absolutely thrives on Ensemble Chemistry. What have you observed about how this cast has come together over the last 5 or 6 weeks?
The cast has come together really well. I mean, the cast have always there's a couple of people that I've either worked with before or knew before, so I kind of knew what they bring into a room. But there's a lot of people I haven't worked with before, you included. And so, like, what the cast is, I think the script work and the 5 days that we all spent around those tables, and I always make the script work everybody, even if you're not in it, just because that way everybody's talking about the same story and everybody's starting to build the same world. And even if you're not in Act Two, we might be reading Act Two and we're talking about. So everybody bonded over that. Then once we got in the room, everybody kind of had that fear of the no scripts in the hands thing. And then everybody kind of got the release and the giggle of, oh, this is what it is. So cool. Now we got it. And I think that is allowed. And also too, just, I specifically try to, with lead actors, try to cast people that I know are going to go about their craft professionally, or like from a certain perspective of, I'm going to be dependable and available and listen. And when we have, Sean Warren and Beth Gudenrath, like those two, like it people start to play off that energy. The thing I look for in leads is leads don't have to be leaders. I don't need anybody to give a halftime speech for a coach, but the way that a lead approaches their work in a play, it's going to affect everybody else. And
Right.
you've been on the stage with Beth. Beth is very focused, very driven. Sean is focused and driven, and he's very playful. And so those types of energies have started to then permeate into, over here with our young lovers, and over here with an Ed and an Essie. And then and it just, everybody starts to play off of that. So the cast get the credit for driving themselves. But the only little hand I had in it was going, okay, if I put Sean and Beth here, I at least know, like, culture wise, like what I'm getting from those two.
Right. So I'm going to put on the actor hat again. And as a member of the esteemed Sycamore family, I want to talk about that family dynamic. It's really fascinating how layered those relationships are in the family. From your perspective, what defines the heart of the family, and how do you guide actors toward finding it?
I think the heart of the family is Grandpa. I think the heart of the family is Grandpa's approach to life of, you do what you want, you do it to its fullest. It doesn't necessarily need to yield very specific fruit very quickly. And I think Grandpa creates a house where everybody lives in his house, so they're able economically to not have certain stresses because he's covering things. People are able to take 8 years to learn to write a play, to do dances, instead of having to go get a job or do this or work a second. So that Grandpa allowing that really allows this family to just go, okay, I want to be making fireworks. I want to be reading Trotsky. I want to be doing this. I want to be doing that. I think it really makes it very authentic for for the Wall Street family when they come in. I think it makes it very authentic for them to look at the Sycamores and go, what's up with these people? So yeah.
Yeah. So, and while I'm here, I have to ask, what have you enjoyed watching develop about Paul within the ensemble?
Paul, who, for those of you that don't know, is the character that Brian is playing.
Yes.
No, I think the fun thing with Paul is when I read Paul, I didn't have a specific thing in the script where I'm like, this is what Paul needs to like be nailing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that's the hard part as a director when you're casting. There are parts where you're like, you go into auditions and you're like, I won't know what I need here until we see it. And so I think the fun for Paul that's kind of developed is Penny, his wife, is so much energy and bounce, 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 and boom, boom, boom. And Paul drifts. And Paul's just mellow, sticks to his own tempo and his own rhythm. And I think, you've taken a break from acting. I'll toot your horn a little bit. You're as an actor, you are very relaxed, but also very engaged.
Thank you.
You have high energy as a character, but you are as yourself centered. And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you take time off. So that's what allows Paul to kind of live in the space that he lives in, exploring his fireworks and his cornflakes. It's just an ease about Paul that you've brought, and it's been great.
Oh, thank you. So Camelot occupies a unique space, community rooted with significant production capability and artistic ambition. We have such a great staff and a great company. How does working in this environment influence your approach as a director?
I think what has been great about the Camelot environment is that, and I use this cliche a lot when we were building the play. The thing I try to make sure everybody starts to do when we're building is we build on what works. What is working and what is there is much easier to build on than what is not working. The metaphor I use is if we're a construction company, we can build on a brick. We go, okay, that is one brick. We will build on it. But if there's not a brick, we can't go, there's nothing there. And what makes Camelot kind of easy is that's kind of the approach that everybody's got, is like, what is the great thing that is going on? All right, let's feed it, let's inform it, let's go with it, and let's grow it. And I've been feeling that from the admin, from the production staff, all the way through to the acting company. It's been able to be very easy for me to just focus on, all right, what is working, and building that positive approach of, all right, we're going to keep building and building and building.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, for someone on the fence, maybe they haven't been to the theater in a while, what would you say to invite them into this experience that is, you can't take it with you?
I would say it's going to be a wonderful, if you haven't been to a play or been to one in a while, definitely a very welcoming play environment to see, because we're not changing location. So we're not trying to tell too wild of a story. We're not throwing a lot of stuff in there. We're rooting in one room, and it's a 3-act structure with like 2 breaks in the middle. We're going to do this classically the way they intended, because the play needs for it. It needs for Act 1 to be contained in Act 2. And so for someone who's coming to see this play or thinking about it or on the fence, it's a very nice opportunity to go experience a story, take a break, get to think about it. All right, here's Act 2, here's our break, and here's Act 3. I just get a sense of what the ritualistic rhythm of theater used to be, and when things were in a 3-act structure. Now we're in a 2-act structure, which is like one intermission in the middle. So it's a nice throwback. It's a nice throwback stylistically to where we were at in 36 when the play was written.
Right. And personally, Tommy, what are you most excited for audiences to experience when they come to see it?
It's the cast. I mean, the cast has done such a wonderful job of finding the individual part of themselves and their characters, and then also playing each other and playing off of each other. Because and we've talked about this a couple times in rehearsal, there will be moments where if I have a line, whether or not we get a laugh is going to be dependent upon if you, Brian, was the next line, takes a little beat so that the audience knows it. And there's a lot of that free flowing, like, let me help, let me give within this cast. And so, yeah, I think there's the reason for live theater is the energy in the room. The tension builds and the tension builds, and then we break it. And if the cast are bringing energy the way this one does, then it's a wonderful room to be in. And you start to feel the energy of the other audience members around you, along with the ones on the stage. And you feel all these little pieces starting to fold into one. And yeah, that's kind of where I would call it there.
Great. Well, it's always fascinating to hear how a production takes shape from the directing chair. So, Tommy, thank you for taking the time to share your perspective and insight into the process.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You can't take it with you at Camelot Theatre here in Talent, Oregon. It runs through March 15th. Tickets and all the show info are available online at camelottheater.org. That's theater with an R-E. And we would love to have you join us. We're going to be continuing these conversations throughout the run of the show with more artists and collaborators who are helping bring this show to life. I'm Brian O'Connor. Thanks for spending time with us for Where Broadway Meets Talent. We will see you next time.